Dr. Mark Nelson is Vice President for Student Affairs, and he holds many other titles at the University of Alabama. And it's always such a distinct pleasure to work with him. When you see the term student-centered said about the university, his picture is right next to that. His interests are dedicated for undergraduate students and graduate students, helping them succeed at the university. And he's going to talk about something that probably in your disciplines, whether it's history or English or whatever else, we probably don't get a lot of exposure to, but you will have occasions in which you will be focusing on leading group discussions. And it's my pleasure to talk to you about leading group discussions, Dr. Mark Nelson.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who aren't lucky at drawings, I've got a few free gifts I'm going to give out too, all based on skill, so you can really show them up a little bit like that. Thank you for being here. I know I am the last speaker. Sorry about that, keeping you here a little longer, but we'll get through this together. This is a session on leading group discussions, as John told you, but we are also going to engage a little bit in discussion along the way to sort of illustrate some of the things that you can do in your classrooms and in your lab sessions and all of the things like that. To get us started, I'm going to share with you a little illustration of a group discussion, a classroom discussion, okay? Are we ready? Oops.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer Curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
I hope your group discussions are much better than that one. And today we're going to share some tips and techniques to help you achieve a discussion that's much better than that. But don't worry when the students look at you like they want to kill you, right? As in that illustration there, because most of the time they are listening. It doesn't mean anything the way that they are looking at you. Several things we're going to talk about here today. We're going to begin with some preliminaries, things you need to understand and know before you actually attempt to engage in a group discussion in your classroom or lab. We'll move on to some of the dangerous waters there that you may be going into. And then we're going to talk specifically about some methods, a couple of methods that I think apply to almost any situation. You can use these in almost any type of classroom. And then we'll end with some basic tips and techniques to help make those things better, and some killers and igniters, things that will really get those discussions started, and things that are surefire methods to ensure that your discussion fails as well. You need to understand those also. So, to get us started on this, I want to engage you in a little quiz, if you will. I'm going to flash on the screen 12 simple words, 12 easy words, and I simply want you to try to remember as many of these words as you can. Okay, that's your goal. Try to remember as many of these words as you can. The order is not important, okay? That is not a trick. The order is not important. Pencils down. You can't write these down to remember them. I want you to use your memory, okay? The order is not important. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. I don't have a second hand, but I will pretend that I do for a little while. Ready? Can everybody see? 12 words, 15 seconds. Go. Some of you are struggling. Sorry. You'll just miss out on that. Okay, most of you could see all of those words. Now you've had 15 whole seconds, or a little more, to remember 12 easy words. What I want you to do, especially the folks over here, I want you to write down all of the words that you can remember. The order is not important. Just write down as many of those words as you can remember. Wow, I can see from here some of you are doing amazing. That's great. A little bit scary. That's good. 12 words, that's your goal. 12 words. Yeah. How you doing in the back? Doing all right back there? If you are stuck, now I want you to do something, play along with me on this. This will work. I want you to try this. You know, all those words that you saw, they are in your memory somewhere. Just retrieving them is a little difficult. So I want you to try this for me. I want you to read in your mind, aloud in your mind, a little contradictory there, but in your mind, I want you to say each word on your list without thinking of the next word. When you finish, I want you to add one more word. You will be able to do it. Don't search for it, just add it. Read each word in your mind, say it in your mind, and then add one more word. Go. You can do it. Don't try to think of the right answer. It's there. Just do it. Everybody add a word? Read it in your mind. Add a word. Okay, count your words. Count your words. How many of you got 12 or more words? Some of you might have gotten one. How many people? Oh, we got a couple over here. Good. Okay. How many got 11 or more words? 11 or 10? How many people? Okay. Who got 2 or more words? When everybody gets to raise their hand in my class, right? Yes. Okay. Very good. I know that some of you put a word on your list that was not on my list. But I know more than that. I know the word that most of you put on your list that was not on my list. And that word is sleep. How many of you put sleep on your list? Let's see it. Raise them high. Look. Crazy. Sleep was nowhere on my list. Wasn't up there, I promise. For those of you who can't see. We'll change this next time. Sleep is nowhere on my list. And this is the same slide. So why did you put sleep on your list, although it was nowhere on my list? You wanted it to be there? Is that what you said? It's related, all of the words. This is why group discussion is so important in the classroom. You know, this is why it's so important, and that is because memory for speech, and to a certain degree visual memory, as you have just proven, memory for speech and to a certain degree visual memory is not simply reproductive. You don't simply reproduce what you hear or see. Memory for speech is reconstructive. I'm screaming at you, I'm sorry. I'm passionate about this. Memory for speech is reconstructive. Have you ever taken something apart and tried to rebuild it? What happens? Doesn't work, or there are parts left over, or there aren't enough parts, or have you ever wrecked your car and get in it to drive again and you're like, oh, I don't like this car anymore. Doesn't drive right. They tried to rebuild it, you know. Doesn't work. You gave my list meaning, and fortunately you all gave it pretty much the same meaning. But when you are in the classroom, students are giving your lecture or giving the day meaning, and it's based on their mental well-being, their physical well-being, their emotional state at the time. And that is why after I'm finished here today, some of you will say and swear that I said something that I did not say. You will. And your students will probably do the same thing. But when we engage them in a dialogue, and when we create an atmosphere in our classrooms that are free to ask questions and seek information, that's very important, to seek information and to clarify then we get a little closer. We get closer to that understanding that we're wanting to impart, right? Get a little closer. So this is why what we're about to do is so very important. So let's take a look at some of the preliminaries, things you need to think about before going into the classroom and leading a discussion. Number one, you've got to create the norm early in the term that students must read the material prior to the day that it is discussed in the classroom or in the lab. If you don't create this norm, then you're not going to be able to take them to where they need to be with the discussion. You've got to be able to assume a certain baseline of knowledge, and that's what that's about. You know, for many, many years I trained graduate students how to teach public speaking. And I remember one time one student coming up to me, one of my grad students came up in our weekly meetings, and he said, I just got the biggest compliment. My students said they don't even have to read the material because I do such a good job of going over it in class. Wrong answer. You're not a professional reader and then regurgitator. That's not what you're about. You are supposed to assume a baseline of knowledge based on the reading and then take them somewhere else in the classroom. So how would you create, what are some ways you could create a norm in the classroom that they must read before coming to class? Well, you could do daily quizzes, you know, reading quizzes, sure. Beginning of class, ask them to discuss what they've read. What were the most important parts in the reading? Yes. Journal assignments to reflect on the reading, so they got to read before they can journal, right? Hopefully. Yes. What else? Anything else? Write-ups, yes. Lead the discussion as if they've read it. That's right. So those are some of the easy ways that you can begin to create that norm. Let your expectations be known too. Remember, you don't need people, they certainly don't need to be reading your mind. If this is your expectation, let them know it early, and let them know it often, that it is your expectation. Number two, another assumption. Lectures and labs traditionally must expand upon the material in the text. Don't be like the student that I worked with who was very proud of being a professional reader of the textbook. And number three, you must examine the reading material very carefully and select concepts which need elaboration or additional concepts that relate to the unit of study. So that's why teaching is so very difficult. It's not about being a professional reader. It's taking people to a different place once they have a baseline of knowledge. And so as the instructor of the class, you have to gauge your class. And you have to know where they need to go after this material as well. And there are many different methods for doing this. We're going to talk about some. Okay, what are some of the dangers then in leading group discussions? This is getting us oriented before we talk about some methods. Number one, about 1/3 of the students will make most of the comments. Why is this a danger? Your turn. That's right, 2/3 are not participating. That's scary. What else? Absolutely. Those 2/3, they begin to rely on the 1/3. I don't have to speak up. They're going to do it for me. And if they don't begin to rely on them, what will they begin to do toward them? What? Get lazy, and then they begin to get resentful about those students. And then you're setting up a climate in the classroom that's not conducive at all to learning or group discussions like this. Some students, danger number two, students from some cultures have normative rules against speaking out in class. So get to know your class members, and you might begin to prompt students, because some of them from some cultures who aren't expected to speak up or find it disrespectful to speak up in class, you might prompt them. Little things you could do, for instance, talk to them at the end of a class period and say, next week I'm going to ask for an example of a non-intentional, nonverbal identifier. Why don't you give me the example when I ask for that next time? That's not cheating. You're beginning to help them learn how to speak up in class. And then they'll catch on that it is something that's expected in the classroom. So be careful. And then danger number three, most teachers have an unconscious preference for whom they call on in the classroom. Sometimes it's called the T factor. So the students in the front here, front couple of rows, and the students down the middle, they have my attention, and I'm going to call on them. You out in the quadrants, the outer quadrants, good luck. Nice to see you. I don't even remember your face sometimes because I'm just unconsciously looking at this group. Another danger, an unconscious danger, is that we tend to call on people who, one, either look like us or act like us, or two, who we think maybe are attractive or giving us positive feedback in class. So then we tend to focus on them. Be careful about those unconscious preferences and question yourself after a class period. Am I doing this? Who did I call on? You might even get a friend to sit in on your class and just plot out. Just put an X by a seat every time, a seating chart, every time you call on someone, so you can see who you're calling on in your classroom. So plot the interaction in your classroom, an excellent exercise that you can engage in. So those are some of the preliminaries to think about and some of the dangers and pitfalls to leading group discussions. Let's now take a look at some of the methods. Now, I've flashed one method on the screen, and I can almost hear your moaning out there. Brainstorming. I know how to do brainstorming. I'm a professor of communication, and so we teach brainstorming and communication. Do we have any communication grad students out here? You know, we teach brainstorming, and I remember I was working once with a group of student leaders in communication, and we wanted to name a particular event that they were doing. And I said, well, this is a perfect opportunity. Let's brainstorm a name for this event. And one student said, I've got an idea, let's call it feedback. The others went, I like it, sounds good, okay, let's go for it. It's not brainstorming. You know, it was a pretty good idea at the beginning, but that is not brainstorming. And as a matter of fact, brainstorming gets a bad rap sometimes because most people, even most organizations, do not know how to engage in it properly. There are actually a minimum of 2 different types of brainstorming. 2 different types. You know, I went to a faculty colloquium once, and in there with other faculty members, and it was on increasing the critical thinking skills of our students. Increasing critical thinking skills. And so this facilitator said, okay, we're going to brainstorm how to increase the critical thinking skills of our students. And I thought, oh, okay, brainstorming, love it. He had all the bells and whistles. He had colored cards. He had pens, you know, and timer and all of these kinds of things. And so he's passed them out, and he said, okay, brainstorm. I'm going to give you a minute to brainstorm activities you could do to improve critical thinking skills. Ready, go. And I thought, oh, no. I hope everybody knows how to do this, you know, because you're supposed to be a little freewheeling in the whole thing. So I wrote down some things. Here's how the rest of that session went. Time's up. Okay, what's your idea for increasing critical thinking? And this person said, have more writing assignments. And he said, excellent, more writing assignments. What did you say? I said, have more essay exams. Excellent, more essay exams. Pointed at me and said, what do you think? And I said, have them stand up and walk around and pretend to be critical thinkers. What did you say? Excellent, and wrote it down. Broke a lot of rules there with brainstorming. If it were that easy to brainstorm a way to increase critical thinking skills, we wouldn't even need to go through that exercise. It's not that easy. He used the direct method of brainstorming, and we're going to use it today, but he should have used the indirect method of brainstorming, and we're going to do that today too. Let's first take a look at brainstorming and what it means. It allows a group to generate and discuss a variety of ideas and perspectives without prematurely evaluating. What did he do wrong? Good one. Excellent. Great. Okay? So don't evaluate them. Advantages, it does encourage creativity, and it encourages equal participation. So even for those students who are too shy or maybe culturally sensitive to speaking up in class, you're going to be encouraging them to speak as well. And that's very important that you begin creating that norm. So brainstorming is a good way to get it started, if you will. So let's look at some of the rules with brainstorming. Impose a time limit. Quantity versus quality. You're looking for as many ideas as possible. So that's why walking around and pretending was a valid idea. Freewheeling, creative, wild ideas. Silent, independent idea generation. Consolidate all lists to a master list. No criticism or critique of ideas. And finally, linking others' ideas is encouraged. When you hear someone say something, it makes you think of something else, you're supposed to say it. That's what makes the direct method and really all brainstorming work. So, let's get an idea of how this works. What we want to know why students do not speak up in class. Why do they not participate in group discussions? That's all I want us to brainstorm on now. We're trying to figure out this problem. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and I want you to write down as many reasons. And remember, zany, crazy, wild, I'm going to reward that a little bit. And I'm going to reward the person who gets the most in here too. So why do students fail to participate in group discussions? Write down everything that comes to your mind. Ready, go. Okay, stop. Pins down. Okay, so count your blessings. Count your excuses why students do not speak in class. Got them? Okay, who got 15 or more? Anybody? 15? 14? 14? 13? Did you get 14? 13? What? 12? 12? Excellent. T-shirt. Can you catch? I won't spill a drink, will I? Good. Okay. All right. Now I want you to kind of shout them out to me. Why? So I'm going to gather them all. Why do students not participate? They do not talk or discuss in class. Piggybacking is encouraged. Why am I on the screen? Piggybacking is encouraged. Ready? Go. Shy. What? Lazy, distracted, locked up. Zombie. John, this is the craziest group we have ever had. Got it. You're all wanting a T-shirt. Yes. Okay, so let's look. So we begin to analyze why they're not speaking up in class. Is it because they are shy, lazy, distracted, or did we go on into the dark side? They are locked up by ninjas, drunk, in drugs, with sleep deprivation. You're teaching mimes, so they cannot speak. They are zombies and they do not want to speak. Maybe it's 8 a.m. a class, right? And they're too sleepy because of that and so forth. We brainstormed this kind of thing when we were evaluating public speaking a few years ago, and we found that students taking public speaking in an 8 a.m. class, they weren't doing as well, you know? So I decided, I said, we're not going to teach them at 8 a.m. anymore. This is a difficult class to teach at 8 a.m. Wow, we saw changes, differences, and so forth occur in there. Is that placating? Maybe a little bit, but you know, it's about student success. So there are things that you can analyze and get from this. If we analyze this list, we'll probably find some things that we could address because of this. So that's the direct method. Notice how easy it was for you to create and generate ideas from that. Who was the one who said you are teaching a class of mimes? Okay, I'm going to give you the t-shirt. That's pretty crazy. I'm going to just throw it to you, and if you'll pass it back. Thank you. All right. So you get the idea. The direct method is used for some things, but is not used for everything. So let's take a look at another method, if you will switch back, another method that we can use, which is called the reflective thinking model. Got everybody helping me here. Thank you very much. The reflective thinking model, which will involve some brainstorming as well. The reflective thinking model is a logical, step-by-step process for discussion that is especially well-suited for problem solving. Especially well-suited for problem solving. The advantages of the reflective thinking model are many, but a couple are, it is a systematic way to keep discussions on track. Did you ever have a teacher who you said something like, let's get them off track today. I'm going to bring up blah, blah, blah. Oh, sure you did. Yes, sure you did. What you didn't know is that the teacher wanted to get off track too, probably. Second, it guards against the tendency to prematurely end a discussion without thoroughly exploring the issue. So you've probably experienced some well-intended teachers who end a discussion prematurely, and you thought, wow, we were either just getting into it or it just ended too abruptly, and I really wanted to follow through with that discussion. This is going to help you with that as well. Let's see how it works. First of all, you define the problem or issue. Define the problem or issue. And you do this through open-ended questions. If you don't use an open-ended question, you end up ending the discussion too quickly. So, do we have a problem with students not speaking up during group discussions? Yes. Problem solved. End of class. It's got to be an open-ended question. So how might we word that? How can we increase the participation of students in group discussions? Do you see what we're doing here? We're using our topic to engage you in a discussion then. So how can we do that? Second, you need to analyze the problem or issue. We're talking about the causes when you analyze the problem or issue. And notice, we started analyzing the problems right here. So in order to get the class to start thinking about the causes, you might use the direct method of brainstorming. Make sense? In order to get the class to analyze the problem or issue, talk about it in terms of causes, and talk about it in terms of ramifications. So now that we have identified through our brainstorming, let's say 3 main reasons why students are not participating in our discussions, what are the ramifications of students not participating in discussions? So very quickly, help me out here. If students do not participate, what are some of the ramifications? Lower grades, they don't learn to analyze issues. What? They are bored in class, perhaps. They don't truly learn the material, it doesn't stick, right? They may memorize it, but it's not sticking. We know that discussions will do that. That's right. They may be very smart, have a great idea, but because they're too shy to voice it, everybody loses out. And what does that student learn? That is okay, and that their voice is not important in a dialogue. So they begin to learn that, and it becomes a habit for them, which is dangerous for us. We don't need that from the students who are going through higher ed. What else? Someone raised their hand. It could eventually inhibit their professional life as well. That's right. So there are far-reaching ramifications even beyond learning the material, right? Far-reaching ramifications beyond learning the material. So it becomes a habit to them. So now we've analyzed the problem, we've looked at some of the ramifications, and the third thing we're going to do, and this is important, as a class, we're going to establish a criteria for the solutions. Do you see how this is well suited for problem solving? We're setting a criteria for selecting our solutions. So as a group, we're going to agree on that. So when it comes to your leading group discussions in your classes, what are some of the criteria for things that we're going to come up with here today? What are the criteria for selecting the best ones? What might be some criteria? It must involve all of the students, yes. It must get everyone involved. What else? Maybe no criticism. That's part of the brainstorming. Yeah, negativity is not allowed in that. Yes. Maybe it doesn't allow for that. Must involve all. It has to be logical and well suited to what we are talking about, to our subject matter, to our classroom setup, perhaps. Must be creative, sure. Well, can you go out and buy a new computer program to do it, to help you with it? Probably not, because that health insurance is so expensive, right? So it must be low cost, right? Maybe it should probably be something that's very low cost for you to engage in. Maybe it should also reduce fear. Whatever solution for improving this should also reduce the fear among our students and increase the number of students who participate. I brainstormed a little, but you got them all. You got them all. So those are some criteria. Now, what you set up when you do that, you avoid the student who comes to you and says, "You never accept my ideas. I didn't accept the ideas. We agreed on the criteria, and we're going to measure our solutions against the criteria in a moment." Now we're going to generate potential solutions. As a class, we're going to generate potential solutions. How can we improve the group discussion? Now think about that question. It's very much like the question, how can we increase the critical thinking skills of our students? If I were to ask you to brainstorm for 30 seconds how to improve group discussions, the first thing you may not be able to write anything immediately. You may be like, I don't know. I can't think. It's not that easy. So we need to start the creativity within people. Okay? That's what we need to do. Start the creativity within people. And again, we're setting up that atmosphere that's low fear, low anxiety, low risk to get them talking. This is going to help you when you have a different kind of discussion in the classroom. Got it? So what I want us to brainstorm for the next 60 seconds, 30 seconds, and I'm going to write it with a blue pen, but I want you to brainstorm as many things that come to your mind as possible when you hear the word yellow. I don't want you to think about group discussion. Just everything that comes to your mind when you hear the word yellow, go. Thank you. I'm sorry. Your goal is to get as many things on there as possible. Anything yellow. Five seconds. Write more, faster. Yellow, 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 yellow. Okay, stop. Okay, count your words. Who got 15 things? Oh, right, 20. 20? 19? Oh, we have a 20? We have a 20. Will you pass this all the way to the back? Sorry. The risk assessment person would hate that I do that, I'm sure. All right, 20 things. That's fantastic. Okay, let's hear. What came to your mind with the word yellow? Let's try to do it one at a time so I can write. Go. Okay. What, Coldplay? That. So. Slow down. Yeah. Corn? Oh, corn. Corn. Oh, I like that. Old Yeller. Jaundice. Snow. Two. Sand. All right. Which one of these things would you say is the craziest thing? Balloon, Coldplay, Wizard of Oz, highlighter, Post-it note, Mellow Yellow, Python, slow down, emotional, Old Yeller, corn. I think porn would have been the craziest. So who said corn? I'm going to give it to you. All right, yes. That's pretty crazy. Here you go again. Thank you. All right. Okay, so let's pick one of these. I'm just seeing standing out here Post-it note. Now that guy actually got the blood flowing to your brains, which the students need the blood to start flowing to their brains in your classroom. And so that will get it started. And notice how people had fun with it for the most part. I saw some of you not having fun. But for the most part, some people had fun with this. In a smaller class even, perhaps even more fun. They build their courage, they begin to speak up in class and so forth. Now we didn't critique any of these, we just gathered them. Now we're going to select something like this, and we're going to do that was the indirect method. We're going to use this now to see if we can brainstorm ways to improve participation in discussions in your class by using Post-it notes. So how can you use a Post-it note? And remember, crazy is good also. We may build something off of that. How could you improve group discussion through the use of Post-it notes? I'm going to give you about 1 minute to brainstorm that. I know it's the end of the day and I'm making you think a lot. Ready? 1 minute, go. I lost track of the time. I think it's a minute. Okay, stop. Now what I want you to do, and this is also a good technique, I'm going to ask you to turn to maybe the people right behind you, the people right beside you, and I want you to share your ideas, but I'd like for you also to even think of an idea based on something that was said when you're sharing the ideas, got it? And then I'm going to ask you to report out 1 or 2 things from your groups, okay? So let's turn. Talk with the people around you. Share your ideas. One for you. One for you.
Oh, no. Yeah, give it to them.
That's true. You have 3 minutes. Come up with the best idea. 3 minutes left. Share all your ideas. Come up with something great. No pressure. You're on TV. Okay, finished? Got it? Got a good one? Got a good one? Gonna share it? Okay. What? Yeah, that's cool. That's what? Okay, wonderful. I want you to share it out loud. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Now, notice what we did. This is like think, pair, share. You heard of this kind of thing? Think, pair, share. It also gets the students used to talking, hearing their own voice with one another. Now, if I am a little bit timid or shy, I can talk in my small group, and someone can report out, and throughout class, I'll build up my courage. You know, part of this is helping them learn how to speak up and hear their voice. So that's part of it, and we can't dismiss that. So you've had an opportunity to share your ideas. In a smaller class, we could have collected them all and judged them against our criteria over here, and that's how we would select our best solution for our problem-solving event. Let me just hear some of your good ideas. Yes?
Everyone has to say an idea, and people vote by sticky notes, but you vote by sticking the note to the person. The person covers
All right. A lot of inappropriate touching. I don't know. No. Yeah, so everybody share it and then voting like that. Okay, let's go over here.
Build in like a post-it idea collage by encouraging creativity by focusing on the big ideas. Everyone writes their one big idea on one post-it, and then they group them together in a collage on the wall so everyone can see it. This increases participation because everyone has to participate and also can tell each other and everyone in the room who thinks similarly and who thinks differently, and
Yeah.
creates a physical structure.
It sort of works like a Wordle, a word cloud, if you will, and then you see where more of the ideas go. Back here.
Not quite the same as the first touching one, but if you have someone who's not being productive or dominating the discussion, you just touch the rest of them out.
Yeah, we may want to do that here. Right, maybe it could be terms and learning definitions and terms and so forth like that, yes?
People can write the post-it notes and they will collect it in place, and then people can pick up and solve the subject on the post-it note.
They have to, and we have a post-it note over our mouth right here. That's good. No, then they have to talk about the subject and discuss it, if you will. Yes, back here. Yes, you.
Get a hat and all the posters and then people go out and they discuss the idea that we're putting there from the hat, so like they both post it, make something they actually discuss on that.
Yes, and very similar. Yes, very good. Here.
Encouraging camaraderie. I'm unaware of any existing federal or state statute that renders the adhesive on the back of a post-it note as a controlled substance. And so we have emphasized bringing in several books of post-it notes and requiring these students to cut them collectively. We build a sense of camaraderie and creativity.
Again, scary, but okay, I like the creativity. Yes.
every individual class writes down a question on
Fun. Sounds good. Yes, you had one you promised to share?
We also said you can play taboo. So like there's something on a post-it note and everyone has to kind of like poets or other classmates to guess it without saying other keywords.
Very good. So these are all excellent. My wife would love that one. Taboo's her favorite. In the back, because I don't ignore the back. Okay, so we've had inappropriate touching, drugs, and now weapons. Okay, excellent. No, actually, these are all leading to very good ideas, and I don't want to stop, but yes.
Separating the class into three rows, and the first row starting off with a question of your choice, maybe it has to do with reading or some part of the discussion, and the second row answering those questions, and the third row has you guess what the question was.
I like it. It's kind of a weird take on Jeopardy, isn't it? Yes. Well, it's creative. Yes. Well, join the group. I mean, these are your fellow students. All right. Well, notice what we would do in the reflective thinking model, back to real things that you can do. No, what we do in the reflective thinking model is then take our ideas for problem solving and judge them against our criteria here, and we might add one ethical down here. Legal. Ethical and legal we could add down here. But that's what we would do with the model. And if we've used that model correctly, what button did you push, John, to get me back here?
Button other than B or 1.
Okay, excellent. What we've done here is we've had 5 different discussions for this same topic that we're talking about here. We've been able to engage the students all along, and we don't prematurely end the discussion either. It takes timing, and it takes practice and skill as well. So, brainstorming and the reflective thinking model. I don't want you ever to say anything like brainstorming's crazy, or a waste of time. It would have been a waste of time had we said, you've got 60 seconds to brainstorm ways to improve group discussions in your classrooms. You would have gotten nowhere near where we did today. And I think we could even get farther than that if we stuck around and did it. Let's talk about some of the tips and techniques, and then we'll talk about some killers and igniters. Just remember to ask closed-ended questions to check for comprehension. Some students feel very comfortable and confident when they know the answer and they're not having to compose the answer in their minds. So they want to answer with that closed-ended question, if you will. Ask open-ended questions to foster further discussion of the concepts. So for those students, after you've created that atmosphere, who will feel comfortable talking in class, avoid patterns of unintentional disconfirmation of students, like students who give the wrong answers. I'll give you a great illustration. While working on a PhD in one of my classes, the professor asked a question and then waited. Someone answered. Obviously, she waited, kept waiting. Someone else answered. Obviously, I'm thinking, well, that must not be exactly right. So I proposed an answer as well. She stood there and said, almost right. You're right on target, but... And then she looked at me and said, you're definitely wrong. And I thought, thank you. Some of you went, aw. I thought, okay, I'm not going to speak up in this class. That was embarrassing, So, and imagine if I had been a freshman, sophomore in college. You could really kill it for a student there. It doesn't mean that you can't tell them something's wrong. You vitally need to, especially if you're teaching a chemistry lab. But be careful about the way that you say it. Ask questions that may have many possible answers so you can explore those answers. Now, all of this requires great thought before going into the classroom. That's what makes it difficult. You have to think through it. Write notes to yourself after each class period of what worked and questions that could work better and so forth. Reinforce the contribution of a student even if it's not the answer you were looking for. And keep the discussion flowing by probing for specifics and asking for additional comments. So just a few tips to kind of keep it going and to keep the atmosphere one where students will want to participate. A few more tips. Let some silence develop. Studies indicate that most teachers wait less than 3 seconds for an answer. So I haven't even had time to get my courage up to even begin answering that question. So those of you who are in communication, I know some great communication teachers who will wait you out for an answer. You probably know who I'm talking about. They will wait you out. You're supposed to wait much longer than that. Get comfortable with the silence. They're getting their courage up to answer, if you will. Remember that why questions may elicit defensiveness. This was a very important lesson for me to learn. I remember early on. I love the why question, but you have to be careful with it. Why do you say that? Well, because I thought it was the right answer. That's what you're going to get. You know? But really what you're doing is, how did you come to that? Transform it into a how question or some of those kinds of things. Prepare before you go into the classroom. It is not easy to lead a great discussion. Take notes, as I said, and assess your skill by videotaping yourself as well. What are some of the things that can kill and ignite discussions? I've given you just a few of them here. Killers like "that will never work, that's crazy, that's not even practical, let's move on." That sort of thing. "You're wrong. No, that's not what I'm talking about." A few of the things that will help students to continue to discuss in class: "That's good. I agree. That's a great idea. It feels wonderful to get that confirmation," if you will. "Really good. Anyone else?" you might ask as well. So you've learned some, I hope, some practical tips that you can use in your classrooms. I want to engage you in one more illustration before we go, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But let me ask you to hold your hands out into an OK sign. Hold your hands out into it. Now look at the person next to you through the OK sign. Through the OK sign. Look at someone next to you. Now everyone look at me through the OK sign. Everyone look at me. Now put the OK sign on your chin. Everyone put the OK sign on your chin. 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 On your chin. Thank you. You'll get it later tonight. Figure it out. Okay. People believe what they see much more than what they hear. They believe what they see. And when you engage them, you increase the likelihood that they're going to learn the material as well. So thank you for your attention here today. Are there any questions? Thank you.